What's up, YouTube? We are live. And I am still banned from Instagram, so we're solely on YouTube today for I think it's been like a month now. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you guys. Hope you're having a great Thursday or watching it back later, great day, whatever day of the week it is. Today, actually, before I go into what I'm going to talk about, I want to mention this importance of pelvic floor relaxation for men and just how deep of an issue this is for a lot of men that I'm finding, right? And the last video I made on YouTube was all some exercises to release this pelvic floor tension patterns. So definitely check those out because that's one of the biggest barriers men have as far as ejaculation control, as far as experiencing deeper states of pleasure and full body orgasm is this tension pattern in the pelvic floor. So check out my recent video on that. Some really great exercises that help me to release these really strong tension patterns I had in this area. But with that, today I want to talk about sexual alchemy, which is really, this process of transforming sexual energy into something more usable, something a bit more higher than just this raw impulse. Alchemy is a process of refining a substance into something else, right? The metaphor here is transforming lead into gold or mercury into gold. And the idea is that we're taking this crude substance and we're refining it to something very valuable. And this can, there's external alchemy, obviously, which is taking these different substances, again, taking these base metals and turning them into valuable metals, turning lead into gold. But internally, we also have this process of alchemy. There's many traditions, many esoteric traditions of internal alchemy. And the one that I studied in comprehensively was Taoist internal alchemy, also known as Neidan, right? The goal of Neidan is to form the elixir, the dawn, right? Which fills the dantian. The dantian is this energy filled in the belly. So with sexual alchemy, the goal is to use this raw sexual drive, this sexual energy that everyone has, and to tap into that as a force of acceleration of your spiritual path, acceleration of healing, acceleration of your life's purpose, your manifestation, really whatever you want. So many different things the sexual energy can be put into. So this is transmutation of sexual energy, but a very direct path in doing this, right? Because a lot of people talk about transmuting sexual energy, but it's often a very vague term. Napoleon Hill had a whole chapter dedicated to this in his book, Think and Grow Rich, but he didn't really say how to actually do it, right? And so when we think of sexual arousal specifically, the key word here is combustion. Combustion. When you're aroused, it begins this combustion process of your sexual energy. It literally starts to burn. It starts to expand. It becomes quite activated. And we feel that, as men, we feel that pretty apparently when our sexual energy is combusting. The problem is that for, us men especially, we tend to lose this combustion. The fire burns out of control. It shoots out of our body and we release it through ejaculation, right? And then we have to wait until our body manufactures new sperm. And then it's the same thing. We're aroused and we can't really handle this intensity of arousal, so we release it from our bodies. So when we're looking at sexual alchemy, we want to be able to capture this combustion process and harness it within the body in a safe and grounded way. Because this, as we all know, the sexual energy is very volatile, it's very fiery, it's very powerful. And it's not easy for most of us to contain without training. And so preparing the body, preparing the cauldron, so to speak, in which we're going to be cooking this sexual energy is the first step. And that's why, in the sexual kung fu system, we don't just begin with trying to go straight to having, cosmic level orgasms and things like that. We begin with preparing the mind and the body. Qigong is an incredibly valuable tool for this, opening up the energy channels to create a container for this alchemy process to happen in. That's what your physical body is, right? But, your physical and energetic body. But for most people, our bodies are so locked up with tension patterns, with negative belief systems, with traumas, emotions, rigidities, stuck patterns that we don't really have space to hold this heightened energy. And, we're uncomfortable with it. That's the pattern for men, is to feel uncomfortable with the energy of arousal. So sexual alchemy is preparing the body, first of all, creating a safe vessel, preparing the energy channels, creating a container so that this energy can be harnessed, it can be transformed, moved out of the sexual center and into, typically, I mean, there's many places you can bring it, but really the alchemy process happens within the dantian. That's why, dantian means elixir field. So we move this sexual energy into the dantian where it transforms. That's why one of the most important steps in the energetic cultivation systems are to build a dantian. This isn't something that just happens. It's something you must consciously do with your practice. Check out my dantian breathing video for a practice to begin doing this. But basically, you're forming, first of all, this magnetic field in the belly that's a container. It's like a bucket that you can, fill with various substances. And once that's established, then you can start to fill this container with various types of qi and jing. Jing and qi are just various uh, vibrational levels of the same thing, which is life force, prana. Qi is a shorthand for jing, qi, and qin. These different aspects, these different vibrations of this bioelectricity that is manifesting everything. And so establishing the dantian is very important because it becomes your reservoir of energy. It becomes a safe place to bring this energy so that it can be stored and transformed. Another very important aspect is the microcosmic orbit, because we need to have a transportation system, if you will, of where to bring the sexual energy. Because the thing is, as men, we only have one pathway to move our sexual energy in, and that's out the genitals, to shoot it out. That's a very open pathway for most men, but we can there's other pathways available that we need to open and create for ourselves, and the microcosmic orbit's a major one. So we do some work to clear this orbit pathway and get familiar with working with it because we're going to be bringing the sexual energy through it so that this sexual energy becomes aroused, starts to combust, and we, instead of releasing it outwards, we bring it through the microcosmic orbit. We store it in the dantian. And, there's various systems that work with this different ways. Some systems spend 5, even 10 years just establishing the dantian before even working with the microcosmic orbit. But I find that to be an overly dense, the energy becomes very, very dense. And when you do too much dantian work where you don't move on to the orbit in time, right? And, some systems start with a microcosmic orbit, which I think is fine. But the more you're able to bring this energy into the dantian, to store this energy in your dantian, the more it starts to compress and cook in this stove, the cauldron, which the dantian is. And the more thick it becomes, the more powerful and tangible the energy becomes. So you're able to run it through this microcosmic orbit and really feel that orbit. And so there's various potential ways to approach sexual alchemy. One is as a solo cultivation practice. You're just working with your own sexual energy. And in that alone, there's different avenues of practice, right? There's unaroused practice where there's nothing inherently sexual happening. You're simply extracting the energy, the jing qi specifically, the essence of that sexual fluid out of the genitals, out of the perineum region, and into the dantian. You do that, spend a lot of time in this meditation type practice, drawing that essence up into your belly. It starts to cook and transform, and you can use that energy. It becomes a bit more refined. You can move that energy through the orbit, through the various, there's other channels as well, right? But the orbit's a great starting point. So now you're moving that energy through the microcosmic orbit. And because this orbit connects to all the glands of the body, it connects to all the major energy centers, you'll notice that if you look at a diagram of the Ren and the Du channels, which are the two channels of the microcosmic orbit, it corresponds to the chakras, the Hindu system, right? There's these nodal points in the orbit, these sort of vortex type points that corresponds to the chakras. So by working with the orbit, you're effectively balancing and harmonizing all the chakras, so to speak, right? And as this energy moves through, it activates these points. They become more active. They become more interactive with the world around you. So what does this mean? It means that all these energy centers start to light up. They start to become activated. Most people are stuck in their lower energy centers, physical feeling, physical pleasure, eating food, surviving, having sex for pleasure, procreation, trying to make money. These are the things that a lot of people in the world are completely stuck in. But once you start to activate this higher energy centers by moving this concentrated energy through them, it starts to light them up. So you activate, the centers of the head, which boosts your feeling of connection to the cosmos, your spiritual experience, your insight, your ability to perceive other dimensions. other aspects of reality, open your heart center and your ability to feel, to connect, to your really deep intuition, your ability to communicate, your willpower, your manifestation power. All these things become activated, which we could say is an acceleration of the natural processes of life. Eventually through our life experiences, potentially we can um, activate these realms of higher consciousness and higher experience on earth. But for most people, it's a very long and slow process. And that's why I like this internal alchemical practice, because it speeds up your evolution. You're directly taking your evolution into your own hands, in your own daily practice. And you're activating these higher energy centers through this buildup of energy. But then we also get into, the realm of dual cultivation, where you're having sex with a partner and generating energy through that sexual act. Sex is something that generates a tremendous amount of energy, but this combustion process, right? But again, the problem here is that for most people, this is completely unconscious, and the charge that they're generating dissipates because they haven't built any sort of vessel to contain that energy. And there's no consciousness around it, because most people aren't having sex trying to generate energy and do something with it, create with it. They're just trying to get off really quick, trying to take their pleasure from someone and, get a quick fix and release stress. And this is, one of the reasons our sexuality as humans has become so distorted and creates so much trauma and guilt and shame around sexuality, is because we've literally forgotten how to properly do this. Sex is really this inner technology that we have available to us that we can use for healing, we can use for creation, for manifestation, for spiritual evolution, for awakening, right? But most people aren't using it for that. They're using it for instant gratification, short-lived pleasure, stress relief, addictive outlets, right? Impulses. And so this is really the higher potential that sex has, is when two people are cultivating their sexual energy together. When you're engaging in conscious lovemaking, you're generating this energy. And talking before about this Dantian, this cauldron in the belly center. Basically, you engage in lovemaking, you build the arousal between you circulate the energy between your orbit, your microcosmic orbits, and the other pathways. There's all these other psychic channels as well. And you collect the energy, both of you, in your Dantian, where it cooks and it's refined, and you store and you capture that energy. And then throughout, the rest of your day or the rest of your week, you can use that energy, running it through your orbit, to awaken the energy centers of the body. You can program it in various ways. You can put it into art, you can put it into creativity, put it into spending time with your family. So really, again, this combustion process of sexual energy, it turns things on, it arouses things, right? And other than just, engaging in sex as the lower aspects of sex, just pure impulse, pure, just animalistic, you know, pleasure-based, short-lived instant gratification. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but if that's the only expression you have of sex, you're not going to get very far, and you're going to find yourself depleted. When you engage in sex in a more conscious way, an understanding that it can amplify whatever you put it into, it can transform you and your partner and heal, bring it to various organs to enhance their function. You can bring it to various energy centers to literally transform your states of consciousness, getting into deeply altered states. I released a video recently on cosmic orgasm and my own experiences of this and how you can, achieve this. So you can check that out as well. But basically, I've had some of the most incredibly powerful, like almost out of body, expansive, universal consciousness types of experiences in this state of orgasm, in the state of lovemaking. And it is deeply transformative. And so really, again, what I'm, the essence of what I'm sharing is that this sexual energy is something very, very powerful. And yes, you can use it to create humans. Yes, you can use it to just, experience some short-lived pleasure, but you can also use it to dramatically transform who you are, to heal aspects of your being, to awaken aspects of your being, to manifest whatever you want into this reality. It's just all about your focal point. And again, it's all having a structure in your practice, a structure in your path, so that you have we could say, energetic infrastructure to contain this energy so that it does not dissipate and you capture the charge. This is a lot, an issue that a lot of, various paths of modalities run into, whether it's, modern breath work or all these various things, is that there's no like creation of a vessel to capture the energy that's being generated. So if you're doing a lot of like, pranayama type practices, they're great. They're awesome. You very quickly shift your state, but the energy that you generate is often very short lived. Pretty quick, it burns out and it's gone. So you have to do it, to do more, which is fine. But when you create a container, such as, building the Dantian, with your practice, you literally contain the energy. You use that as the storage. So you really capture the energy of all the whatever practices that you're doing, and you can use it at any time. So that you're significantly, it's like you're putting money in your savings account every day, every day, every day. And really, the key to the higher evolution of yourself and to really get the most out of this practice is to build your chi to a much higher than average level. And again, it's just like having $1 million in your bank account. You have 1 million units of chi in your dantian, your energy body, and you have much more ability to think clearly, to keep yourself healthy, happy in the flow, to manifest as you want, and to be on this path of internal balance. And this external world reflects that around you. You start to create balance in your external environment. So this is a long rant on sexual alchemy, but it's a very obviously something I'm very passionate about. I've been working with this for over almost a decade now, and it's been dramatically life changing for me. So if this was like very abstract and you don't know where to start, check out my Microcosmic Orbit video. I've made a few videos on this, but my most recent one's a great practice to work with the Microcosmic Orbit. My Dantian building practice, the Dantian breathing, that will help you start to create that container to store energy in, which is very important to get to high level and internal training. And also my testicle breathing. That's a practical method for men. Well, men and women can use it actually, but it's a practical method to circulate the sexual energy through your body. So with that, I'm going to jump into some questions now. So feel free to type up your questions. Thanks everyone for showing up. It's always good to see you guys. It's good to hang out. Seven Sins, what's up? Daniel Lucero. Good to see you. Thanks, brother. Okay, Tina says, hey, Johnathan, with all the additional collective heavy energy chaos lately, any specific recommendations for grounding and shielding? Thank you. Very good question. Very appropriate. Yeah, it's things are a little crazy. First, we're living in the time of chaos. We're living in the age of chaos. So dramatic transformations, unprecedented, weirdness in the world, things like that. Really, it's just this shadows of the collective coming out. The Earth's going through a big healing right now, and healings can be painful. we're in this worldwide kind of healing crisis. So, and it can feel pretty heavy in the midst of it. So, what I recommend is the more that you can I was talking about this in a recent video. I made a video on overcoming anxiety. So definitely check that out. But basically, it's like when you can kind of make your world smaller. What do I mean by this? I mean, stop putting your focus so much on like what's happening out here, like, hundreds of thousands of miles away from where you are. It's like, what can you actually control? It's like, it doesn't really do you good to have all this information coming in if you can't really do anything with it, right? So what can you control? Your immediate reality, the things around you, the environment that you're in, the things that you're doing, the materials that you're absorbing, the information you're absorbing. You can control these things. So be selective. Don't spend all day maybe scrolling through social media, scrolling through the news feeds and things like that. Spend more time in nature. Spend more time doing fun, just calm activities. Jump on your bike and go for a bike ride, and go to a park and sit under a tree and just observe the beauty of nature. Listen to the birds, listen to the sounds of nature. Yesterday, I was having my nature time, kind of restorative day, and I did a thing where I set a timer for 10 minutes, and I just sat there and I was sitting on a chair out in this open space out in nature, and I was just listening. Just like anytime like a thought would come into my mind, I'd be like, nope, I'm not thinking, I'm just feeling. And I was just listening to all the sounds, just looking at the scenery, just being totally absorbed in the moment and what is. And it was incredibly calming. So, but as far as, right, you're talking about kind of grounding and shielding. So yeah, grounding is important, most important. Zhanzhuang practice, the Zhanzhuang standing Qigong, for me is the most effective method of grounding. I do that every morning, and it's amazing. So, I'll do various grounding practices later in the day as well. Also, trees. Working with trees is phenomenal. And you can do your Qigong under a tree, but you can also sit or stand and just be in the tree. And first of all, kind of, say hi to it, like, hey, do you mind if I hang out with you? Right? Trees are alive. They're very wise beings. And just sit there or stand in that tree's field and just feel into that tree. Like you kind of like you feel your body, right? In the internal practice, you learn to really absorb your mind into the body. You start to extend your mind into that tree and really feel its field, really feel the tree. They have amazing, amazing energy. And so you can start to then exchange your energy with the tree. So you breathe in, feel like you're just like absorbing from the tree. You're exhaling from your body into the tree. Amazing for clearing, for grounding, and just centering is to work with trees. But again, I mean, everything I shared is pretty grounding, just being in the moment, being in your body, doing things you find fun, play, go out and play. And like, you know, I know it's easy to get stuck in our heads this day and age, but it's really important to stay in your body, do fun things, do enjoyable things, stretch, do yoga, do qigong, breath work, meditation, just, really staying grounded. And as far as shielding, um, I think that Qigong gives you a natural energy field working with, the microcosmic orbit, working with really just the clearing of the channels and everything. When you do Qigong, it gives you very strong integrity in your energy field. So, and you can also, something I sometimes do is kind of make this chi bubble around myself. Just like, okay, I kind of feel this golden field around myself, gold or white, the color of, the metal element, gold element, integrity, strength, very good protection. So just kind of feel this, aware of this bubble around you and just feeling that strong and its integrity. You can breathe into your dantian or your heart center, and then exhale and feel like you're reinforcing this bubble. Also check out my video. What did I call it? Energy body activation. That's a pretty good technique as well. So hope that's helpful. Chosen One says tips on fasting. 1 meal a day without crashing your hormones. Do you feel like your phallic vitality is diminished on longer fasts? What's the antidote? I'm not the best person to answer about this because I'm not huge on fasting. I think it has its place, but like there's a lot of these, like trending things where it's like people are like, yeah, everyone should be doing fasting. Everyone should be doing this thing. When the reality is that, fasting is a clearing process. It's a clearing practice. It clears, the body literally eats itself. You clear the old, which is great unless you're doing it too much. I have friends, I know people who are like, they're like skin and bones. They're very, very skinny. They're obviously, and they're like super into fasting. It's like, bro, like I think you're a bit malnourished. Like maybe you should not fast. Maybe you should, eat a bit more, eat a sandwich, right? Um, so I don't know. Be careful with fasting. That's all I can really say about it. Don't get too crazy with it. And if you feel like it's affecting your vitality, then it is. You're consuming your reserves. So be careful with that. B says, hey bro, while doing Qigong, do you count the reps or think about something, or do you try to clear your mind? And do you do sets or just until you feel like changing postures? Thank you. Good question. It's basically what do you focus on when you're doing Qigong? Um, I don't like count anymore. When I was learning Qigong, a lot of the teachers like, okay, you do this for this many repetitions. So, for a while I would count, but I don't do anymore because I'm pretty in tune with like, I kind of know like, okay, especially because like with one movement now, I can accomplish the amount of chi engagement that it used to take me 20 minutes to 30 minutes, 5 years ago. And I'm not trying to brag. It's just like, that's what happens as you really practice this stuff, as you really get your energy body lit up and just flying. You feel the chi and you're like, yeah, I'm super lit up. I feel like I feel like a furnace right now. So don't worry too much about it. I think, if anything, what I would recommend is to set an interval timer. Like, okay, I'm going to do 5 minutes of this exercise, 5 minutes of that exercise. That can be kind of keep you in track. But in general, when you're doing Qigong, what do you keep the mind focused on? The body, feeling the body, absorbing your mind into the body. That's the most important thing because the Qi goes where the mind flows. So if where the mind goes, the Qi flows, right? So if you're thinking about all this stuff, you're thinking about your grocery list, you're thinking about what you heard on the news, you're thinking about, all these things, you're sending your chi out, you're sending it up in your head. It's dissipating, right? You're not going to get as much out of your practice. I know it's easier said than done, but this requires practice. So what I recommend is you just what I do is like whenever I notice my mind's going on something, it's like I pull that energy back into my body. It's like I pull that thought back into my body, and my mind is engaged in my body. And the more engaged your mind is absorbed, the more absorbed your mind is into your body, the more you'll start to feel the chi, and you just focus your mind on your body entirely, and you start to get into that like alpha state, that alpha brain state, where it's just like your mind's very quiet, and you're just in this pure feeling, meditative position, mind state. I think that's really what you might want to focus on when you're practicing. Quieting the mind, feeling the dantian, feeling, the body. Life of Beach says, I tried dantian with visualization, worked for me, just doing it a little bit thus far. Helps to loosen the tension on the nervous system. Yeah, so the thing with the dantian is that, visualizing it like you're like imagining there's a ball of light down there. It's great. It can help kind of absorb the mind, but the most important thing is that you're really feeling, really anchoring the mind in this area of the body. It requires stillness, and it really requires the sinking of your energy to really form the dantian field. And you have it because it's a very tangible thing. It feels like this, for me, it's like this bubbling hot. It literally feels like something's cooking and bubbling there. I think that's why, the Taoist texts refer to it as the cauldron, because it literally feels like a cauldron when you have it going. And that's how you know you're doing it right. It's like you feel it very tangibly. Liar says, happy full moon, brother. Do you do anything to mark this monthly event? Sometimes, I often plan certain things around full moon and new moon. Nothing specifically. I think this week I'm kind of focusing on letting go of the things I really don't need to be doing. I guess I know that's pretty vague, but I'm really at this time in my life working on spending a lot, like as minimal time on technology as possible, because just, and I'm pretty good as far as my habits and my boundaries with technology, but just in general, it's like the least I'm on my phone or on the computer and the more I'm out in nature, the more I'm doing my practice, just like in my body, the much better I feel. So that's a big thing I'm focusing on now. Derek Trevino says, bit of paranoia. Why is that? And is it normal? I'm not sure if there's more to that, but I don't know. I think a lot of people are feeling paranoia right now. That's really it's kind of an earth element thing, spleen, stomach. It's this fear that your earth is going to be taken away from you. Usually it's external things. I'm afraid, my house is going to be taken away from me. I'm afraid of there's going to be a war, and, things are going to get weird. My money's going to disappear, whatever. It's these external things. So the remedy to this is strengthen your internal earth, what you identify with as giving you security and safety in your life. When it's all external things, you're kind of setting yourself up to, how when these things are taken away, you have no earth. That's why really strengthening your internal earth, this feeling of trust, openness, safety within yourself, and also slowing down the mind. Overthinking, eats up the spleen, stomach, the digestive fire, the earth element. So more, calmness. This is kind of the theme of today, I think, is this getting out of the noise that's happening out here and finding stillness, finding calmness in your life. For me, the easiest way to do that is to be out in nature and, do my practice and things like that. As Life on the Beach says, society's in a collective psychosis. You should be feeling it. Yeah, the collective field is pretty disturbed right now. So, if you're feeling a lot of heavy, weird things, a lot of it isn't really you. It's a collective field. So I got out of, I don't live in like a major city, but I do live in, a fairly populated area. I live in a city, and at least once a week I get out. I spend a day outside the city, and it's just amazing. I get out and it's just like, oh, it's just like this weight has been taken off my shoulders. I'm like, man, the energy of humanity, the energy field is heavy right now. So whatever you can do to stay balanced, is very important. Ray Ewan says, good to see you, Jonathan. After a few days of semen retention, I noticed that I started to become more logical overall and less willing to socialize, being serious in general. Is this a sign of suppression? I mean, this, may have nothing to do with semen retention. Like this is just kind of like it sounds just like a mood. You know what I mean? Like this is just how you feel on this day. And what's impacting how you're feeling, right? It's a number of things. There's the collective field. So we've been talking about, maybe it's what you ate that morning. Did you, the people you've been engaging with, the material you've been consuming, the energy in your body that day, astrological factors. Of course, retaining semen is one aspect of this, but there's so many things that affect how you feel on a given daily basis. So, it's difficult to say exactly why this is. Jeffrey Azucena says, any tips on Tumo breathing? It's a fairly simple practice. You just, you can check out, I have a YouTube video on this Tumo breathing practice. I also go deeper into it into my course. It's a phenomenal practice that quickly shifts your state and can light up the Dantian pretty well as well. It's a really awesome, energizing practice. But tips on it, just, you take the 9 breaths and then you hold the breath and you pressurize the exhale. We'll do some Tumo breathing. Since we need some Tumo breathing right now, we'll shift our states. How do we do that? Be careful. This is more yang fiery practice, and it can make you pass out. I've personally passed out doing this. So, do your own risk right now if you're going to do it. So I like to place my hands on my belly, and as you exhale, you lean forward as you exhale, like totally emptying your lungs. Inhale as you come back up. So you're going to do that 9 times. On the 9th time, you exhale out all the air. Take a deep breath. Hold the breath for a moment, and then feel like you're kind of sinking the air down deep into the belly. Push the belly out and blow through the lips like you're blowing through a tiny straw to really pressurize that exhale. And you make that exhale last as long as you can. More Dantian focus will help this. So feel like with every inhale, you're like breathing into the Dantian. And as you exhale, it's like stoking a fire. It's intensifying this fire in the Dantian, right? We'll try it. 9 breaths. Deep breath in. Push down the belly. Hold it for a few seconds. Pressurize the exhale. Feel like you're pushing out the belly as you do this. Oh, yeah. It's good. It's good stuff. 2 more breath. So yeah, my tips is just practice it. It's really a pretty simple practice. Just keep doing it, and you'll get her. Okay. Quadrix says, one problem I face while retaining my seed: when I make love, I don't last nearly as long as I used to. Is there any practice I can do to increase the time before climax? Take my ejaculation control guide. That's first and foremost. Here's the thing: when you're practicing semen retention, you're building more pressure in the genitals, and if you don't train in the sexual kung fu practices of how to manage your arousal and to move that arousal out of your genitals, you basically go to have sex, you're a fully loaded gun, and you're going to blow pretty quick, right? So the key is to train in the sexual kung fu practices to manage your arousal. Start with the ejaculation control course. Go through my premature ejaculation playlist as well. I've shared plenty there, so you'll find that helpful. Michael Canton, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Another Michael says, hey, Johnathan, will you do another sexual kung fu teacher training after the first round, which is starting now? Yeah. So, well, first of all, the teacher training, I'm pushing it back a couple weeks just because, as I'm going through the applications and figuring out just the right people and everything, I've been super busy too, but it's going to be starting in April, first week of April, officially now. But yes, I'm planning on doing another sexual kung fu teacher training in, I'm not entirely sure, maybe at the end of this 6 months of training, maybe next year, I'm not entirely sure, but I will be doing more in the future. Zeke the Geek says, big difference between grounding practice and real grounding with trees or bare feet on the ground. The Earthing movie explains this really well. So many benefits to barefoot grounding on the earth. Yeah, one's a more physical thing, like you're physically putting your feet on the earth and you're getting a physical, the negative ions, the physical chemical things that happen when you do place your feet on the earth. And yes, that's very important as well. But there's another aspect of grounding, which is energetic grounding. You can have your bare feet on the earth and still be, with your head up in the clouds. So I would say there's different aspects to grounding, um, grounding to me is really, really being in your body. It's really being in the here and now. It's being out of your head and here, present, boom, feeling like the mountain, Michael Canton says, good reminders to get outside and play. Yeah, totally. I mean, uh, we live in, it's this interesting thing, not to go on too much a tangent about this, but it's like, we're living in a virtual reality. It's all kind of been set up to be this way. I've been thinking about how, like, what was life like before everyone was on social media all day? Like before everyone got all their, most of their human interaction, most of their information through social media. It was a very different world. We used to go out and do things all the time. And I don't know, it's amazing this kind of matrix system that's rolling out where it literally is a virtual reality. All this information is coming through our screen and it's highly manipulated and we actually have no idea what's really going on in the world. It's an interesting thing, and it's used to manipulate our emotions, manipulate our beliefs, how we feel, and So the best thing to do is just to remember that and put things in perspective to make your world smaller again. And to me, the most important helpful thing is just to be out in nature and just play, just have fun, just be in my body. Doing cartwheels on the grass, and this, illustrating this practice I did. I recommend everyone trying this. If you're kind of struggling with, just feeling weird right now, set a timer on your phone. I mean, start with 5 minutes. Go outside, go to a park, anywhere you can, just, even just outside your house, your apartment, whatever, and just sit and listen. Just listen to sounds. Observe. Use your peripheral vision. Be completely absorbed in the sounds you're hearing and what you're seeing, the feelings in your body, and notice how thoughts come into your mind and they want to pull all your energy into this mental realm, and you just ignore it. Say, no, I'm coming back to my body. Listen to all the sounds that are happening. Can you notice every different individual sound happening at once, like you're listening to music or something? And it really pulls your awareness into the present moment. And, remember what it was like to be a child, and you were just like, you didn't really care so much about, where you were going in your life, what's going to happen in the future. You were just like, hey, what can I do to have fun right now? Stepping more into that realm for me has been very, very healing. B says, I've been doing Qigong every day in nature. I love it so much. Thank you. It makes me feel very relaxed, but how can I feel the energy moving and circulating? So this is how to really feel the chi, right? This is a big, big thing I really go into this in my courses, right? In Multi-Orgasmic Man, in the Qigong practice, I really share some of my own insights, how to really get the chi engaged. Because there's a difference between just moving your arms around, feeling, I feel good, I'm breathing, it feels good, and really getting the chi moving, right? So foundations are important here. Dantian breathing, building the Dantian, that's very important, because if you don't have a strong reservoir of chi, if it's not really dense, then there's just not as much going through your body. You're not going to feel as much. It doesn't mean nothing's happening. It just means your chi isn't super thick yet. You don't quite have the voltage built up that you could. So Dantian breathing is a huge foundation. Also, the Zhanzhuang practice, the standing practice, doing it properly, will help to thicken and really build that chi as well, because that's really a foundation for Qigong practice, I would say. And there's some other very subtleties. The more your mind is in your body, one thing and relaxation is super, super important. If you're like really just like lifting up your shoulders, you're engaging much attention, you're not really doing Qigong, you're doing, physical movements. Qigong is a whole body thing. It's really engaging the mind with the body to move as a unit in a way that engages chi flow. And this takes some training. One little tip I'll share with you. In fact, I'll do this right now. All right. This point here on the wrist, it's a dulling point. It's a pericardium point. Feel that on both hands. You can just kind of press there with your finger, kind of acupress it. So hold your mind in that area. Really absorb it into that area. It's like imagine there's like a drop of water, like a liquid, like a liquid heavy metal right there that's just really putting this pressure at this point. Hold your mind there, and then stretch your fingers a little bit. Just engage the fingers a little bit. Just a very, very slight stretch, like you're opening all the joints, and then relax the fingers. Still holding your mind in that dulling point. Hold it there. Gently, very slightly stretch the fingers while keeping your hands as relaxed as you can, feeling that dulling point and the palms of your hands. Relax. Stretch. Still holding your mind on the dulling point. Relax. Now we're gonna do one more thing. Have you ever you can keep doing this, but have you ever put your hand in wax? So like you put or like a finger or something, you dip it in wax and the wax hardens, and then when you move your finger, it starts to break. We're gonna play with that little mental engagement. If you haven't done that, maybe harder to feel this, but okay. Imagine you dipped the bottom of your palm in wax. So just like this half part of your palm is dipped in wax. And as you do this kind of stretching, holding feeling the dulling point, imagine that it's that same feeling like where the wax is just barely breaking as you do the slight stretching. Just play with that. Yeah, just notice what you feel. That lights up, I mean, it lights up my whole body. When you really get everything going, it's a full body thing. It pulls the chi from the feet and the dantian wired in the hands. Play with that. And also, check out my specifically my latest qigong videos where I really go in, some of the emphasis on what to focus on during qigong, so you'll feel the energy more. And it's just practice too, just building up your chi to where it becomes tangible. But if you've been doing qigong for like 2 or 3 years and you're not feeling much, something's wrong in your practice. So it's a good time to look into more of these things. Patrick Massey says, "Hi, I can't draw my sexual energy. I keep trying, but I don't feel anything." Well, just because you don't feel anything, it doesn't mean nothing's happening. Um, there's the whole thing about the more your chi develops, the more you will start to feel it. So, and it all also comes down to foundations. Work with the microcosmic orbit. Make sure you're strong with that practice. Work on practicing qigong. All the things I was mentioning before will be helpful as well. Start to feel your energy, and then you'll start to feel your sexual energy. But a good indicator that it is moving, for example, if you're working with your aroused sexual energy and you're trying to, pull that sexual energy out of your genitals, if you're erect, your erection will start to subside a bit. You'll feel a bit less arousal when you're successfully moving that energy out. So there's, a good indication. The whole thing about the tangibility of energy is that for most people, you're not going to feel much in the beginning. It's pretty normal. But as you practice in the right way, right? As you build the dantian specifically, that's a very important aspect of it. And the more you focus on relaxing, really absorbing your mind into the body and feeling, the more you'll start to feel your energy. It starts in the hands, spreads to the forearms, spreads to the whole body. Okay, if you're just as far as chi cultivation and tangibility of that, another phenomenal practice is what did I call it? My grounding qigong practice. Check out, Google or YouTube sexual kung fu grounding qigong, Qigong, and you'll find my walking qigong practice, which is phenomenal for charging up the legs, which is how you really get the qi going in your body. A lot of qigong emphasizes arms. It's like, oh, okay, it's all up in my arms, but really, the qi. If you want to really amplify your chi development, you work with the legs. They talk a lot about this in the Tai Chi classics. The legs are really generating the power, and not a physical power like you're pushing and kicking with the legs, but it's a tangible. The legs are these like energy generators. It takes a while to feel it, but once you do, it's unbelievable, crazy powerful, thick, viscous flows of radioactive fluid through your body is what it feels like. We really got the chi going, but that takes a while. Take some practice. Liar 1 says, any tips for dealing with having a short temper? Liver, anger, frustration. Often a lot of hot energy in the liver. Do you drink alcohol? Do you take kind of toxic things? Something to look at. I'm not saying you do, but be aware of this. heat in general, if you spend a lot of time like on a computer, if you have a lot of stress in your life, it just causes this buildup. And someone says something, it pisses you off, and you you use it as an opportunity to kind of blow this steam off, and it comes off as this anger. And this could be a problem, right? If you're not able to control that. So basically you want to have an outlet for this buildup of heat that is, causing anger, that you feel as anger, right? Kind of the more superficial, crude ways are like, having a punching bag or something. So you physically take out the anger on the punching bag. It's fine. It's at least something you can do. But kind of the more, a big part of talking about internal alchemy at the beginning of this video, a big part of the internal energy systems is being able to transform your emotions into more usable energy, or at least just clear the root, clear that energy buildup that's causing that emotion from your body. The 6 healing sounds is a simple way to do this. We'll do one right now, right? So livers, right side of the ribs. As you breathe in, feel like you're breathing in from trees, from grass, all this green wood element, liver, right? Breathing that into the liver as you inhale, and just hold your hand on your liver. So like you're breathing in all this green into the liver as you inhale. As you exhale, stretch up in the left and exhale with this sound, shh, like an SH sound. And feel like you're releasing this anger from your liver, like this green, yellow-green light, or like a cloud of smoke coming out of your liver through your mouth. Shh. Do that for a few minutes and just notice if it feels better. And also, I think meditation practice, grounding, qigong will help you kind of manage these this short temper that you have as well. Zeke the Geek says, amazing. It's all about calmness. Stress is a killer. It destroys our microbiome. It destroys a lot of things, right? Stress is the underlying cause for, probably 80-90% of diseases that people have. It's it's well known now. Stress is the real epidemic on this planet, one of them anyway, right? So the more you can avoid stress, the healthier, happier you will be. The miraculous thing about, a lot of the doomsday situations is like people are afraid of right now is like, I would say a lot of things that have been happening the past few years. It's like, if you stop paying attention to social media and the news, it goes away miraculously. And like, all of a sudden, oh, maybe the world's okay. Maybe I'm all right. So minding your attention, what you're focusing on is extremely important. Chafe Fumic says, what are your opinions on the carnivore diet? Do you think you can still be spiritual on it? I don't think that your diet is what makes you spiritual, because everything is alive, everything is life force, everything's living. Plants are living, animals are living, plants feel pain, right? So I don't think what you're eating is necessarily making you spiritual or not spiritual, unless you're like torturing things or something like that before you eat them. That'd be a bit weird, right? As far as the carnivore diet, I can only speculate on it. With the diet thing in general, no diet is right for everyone. And I think it's good to experiment, be like, okay, try it for a month, notice how you feel. And then maybe try something else for a month and notice if you feel better or worse, right? Diet is, I say this all the time, but diet's kind of a religion for a lot of people, where it's another one of these things where they're like, this is everything. Diet is everything, especially this one specific diet. If everyone does this, it will fix everything that they have. There's a lot of this going around, but diet's just one aspect of, we could say, your self-cultivation, how you manage yourself. And it is an important one, right? But it's not everything. So, I don't know, try it and see how you feel. That's only you can say what diet's right for you. It's like, do you actually feel good on it? And if you get like blood work and things like that, are your levels healthy? That's, the real indicator there. Learn to listen to your body and what it needs, because everyone's body is different. Rendell Frank says, would some of the erogenous zones on a woman's body be the same on a man's body in terms of self-stimulation for self-cultivation? Definitely. I think we, pretty much have the same erogenous zones. Anywhere in the body can be an erogenous zone, really. We're just often hold kind of numbness and tension and blockage at different areas, but the whole body can be an erogenous zone. If you've ever been in a state of full body orgasm, I mean, I've had like feeling like I'm having orgasms in my legs, orgasms in my arms, like anywhere can be an erogenous zone. And that's really kind of opening up and increasing your sensitivity and your feeling and ability to feel pleasure in all aspects of your body. That's what I love about doing, qigong, especially like tai chi, xingyi, kind of the more intense, energetic practices where it's like you get the chi flowing and pressurized, where it just lights you up like crazy, and it's like the whole body gets into this orgasmic feeling state. It's phenomenal. Caitlin Gilpatrick says, I loved your bone breathing video. Thank you. Awesome. That's an amazing practice I've been doing every day. That's another one. You guys were asking about feeling your energy. Check out my bone breathing qigong video. I posted it recently. That is a very powerful practice. If you really work with that, really like pressurizing the chi into the bones. Because I've been doing this for a while now, every day. I only, it only takes like 5 to 10 minutes to, do a quick little bit of bone breathing, but it literally makes my bones feel like right now, my bones, my arms, my legs feel like radioactive. This like just this radiance, this crazy energy emanating from them. It's awesome. The bones are very much related to our gene, bone marrow specifically. It's part of the kidney system. Chinese medicine, kidney systems, all the fluids of the body. Our bone marrow produces blood, it produces hormones. And as we get older, our bones dry up. You get osteoporosis and things like that. So the bone breathing is a way to keep your bones healthy. The Tai Chi classics talk about having tiger bones by this kind of chi packing into the bones, where supposedly makes your bones really, really strong, much harder to break, and it strengthens your gene, your vital essence as well. So bone breathing is phenomenal. Owl B. Joshing says, do you have any recipes for good body energy? That drink looks delicious, by the way. I'm not sure what you mean by good body energy. Do you mean just like, drinks for health, recipes for health? What I'm drinking right now, this is just a little protein smoothie. What did I put in here? I put almond butter, banana, some grass-fed whey protein. So I've been doing for protein recently. What else is in here? Hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are awesome. A little bit of raw honey. I feel like there's more than that too. I forgot. Eggs, 3 raw eggs. I get, pasture-raised eggs. I put them raw in my smoothies too. Tina says the wax analogy was helpful. Would focusing on that point while doing Zhanzhuang help with the wandering mind? Definitely. You can actually play with this and expand it to all your body, right? But the palms are a great focal point to start with, at least. So in Zhanzhuang, you just feel, because you're holding kind of hand shape. And with Zhanzhuang, the same thing. Like you want extended palms. You don't want to be just like collapsed. You don't want to be like tense and stretched. It's in between. And so you that same feeling, like you've dipped your hands into wax and it's stretching and breaking, and you'll feel that. And then extend it to the forearms. Feel like you dipped your whole forearm into wax and it's kind of stretching and breaking that wax coating. And you can, eventually extend that feeling to the whole body. I've been doing it with my back, like my spine. It just lights up the spine. It feels amazing. But yeah, that's that's whole, the wandering mind during Zhanzhuang. It's like, you're just standing here in this practice. I've been holding Embrace the Tree for 30 minutes in my morning practice. And, I struggled with this practice in the beginning because it's like pretty soon you get bored and, it becomes uncomfortable. Your body starts screaming at you where the tension is. So there's a lot of things you can focus on. One of the go-tos is breathing. It's like with every inhale, feel like you're like a stone statue sinking into the earth. With every exhale, feel more tension dissolve. Just go scanning through the body for tension, releasing, melting into the earth. You can even do the orbit while you're standing here. Sometimes I'll breathe up the back, like there's a marble moving up the back. Exhale down the front of the body. Breathe through the other channels. The 8 extras. There's a lot of things that you can play with in Zhanzhuang that will keep your mind engaged. It's phenomenal practice. Michael Canton says, it helps listening to you, Johnathan. I just went on a short bike ride and I'm going to the gym now. Thanks for the inspiration. Glad you found it helpful, brother. I love going on bike rides. It's another good way just to like get in the flow and like it makes me feel like a kid. I always, rode my bike around as a kid, and it's a very sensual experience riding a bike. So enjoy your workout, Michael. Rendell Frank says, during what age group of a man's life is his sexual energy the highest? And after that time passes, how would he keep it potent? So generally, as men, our sexual health, our vitality peaks, around 18 to mid 20s, even up into 30s for some people. And um, typically it starts tapering off. I mean, now because, men are overstimulated with porn and things like that, they're ejaculating excessively. And this, I think, a lot of men are peaking sexual vitality wise, peaking at like, 18 or earlier, right? And it's just downhill from there. Um, but in general, yeah, it seems to be like 18 to, early mid 20s is when men have the most sexual vitality. And if they don't manage it, it's just a downhill experience from there. um, So as far as keeping it potent, this is where managing your energy. So for a man, not ejaculating too often, right? There's the Taoist guidelines is that in your 20s you can ejaculate every 4 days, in your 30s every 8 days. Peng Zhu said, if a man ejaculates no more than twice a month, he will live a long, healthy life. There's a lot of other factors too, but so again, that's the big thing is managing your sexual energy, not overspending, not ejaculating too much. But still allowing yourself to have sexual pleasure because that's important to your health and your vitality too, your endocrine system. Managing stress, eating properly, having a healthy diet, not taking tons of drugs and drinking a lot of alcohol. All these things that deplete our vitality. Pretty much everything that's modern living is managing your diet, managing stress. That's extremely important. Exercising, I think doing qigong is one of the best things for your longevity. Taking some like, kidney supporting herbal supplements. Really, that's the biggest thing is your kidney energies, your jing. You have a certain amount of jing, and when you spend it, it's gone. So managing your kidney energies is a huge part of this as far as longevity. I was in a point of, sexual depletion, I would say around age 22, 23. And so I peaked around, probably 2021. And then getting into sexual kung fu, I brought my levels back up and I have, easily as much sexual vitality now as I did, in my early 20s. And I'm 33 years old. So I think with practice and the right lifestyle, you can keep that peak of high sexual vitality for quite a long period. Okay, Sharon, Miss Masturbator says, pleasuring yourself is a normal, healthy activity that is pleasant, fulfilling, acceptable, and safe for both genders, even among people who have a partner and can be done throughout life. I totally agree, but doing it in the right way, right? Which for men involves not ejaculating every time, not watching porn, making it a self-love and not a instant gratification impulsive outlet. And yeah, this is something I talk about a lot. B says, when you do the microcosmic orbit, do you listen to something or do you have it memorized? And do you sit in a chair or lay down? I want to include that in the healing sounds every day. I mean, I just do the orbit. I don't really follow guided practices unless I'm learning something new. And there's a lot of different methods I've learned to work with the orbit. I've been doing some different ones, but I typically do my sitting practices sitting on the ground. I sit on like a cushion, so it kind of props up the hips, so I can sit in really kind of a Burmese style, almost half lotus type meditation position with a straight spine. That's how I sit. That's how I do my sitting practices. Dov says, when I release, I feel loose, free, light, and happy. When retaining and circulating, I struggle to get to the stage of lightness. Does this come with time and practice? Yeah. I mean, this is a good thing to bring up here is that it's not all about men can never ejaculate. Men have to retain their semen. This is really, holistic from a holistic viewpoint of health and vitality and cultivation, it's about avoiding extremes. This is why I don't say, you can never ever ejaculate. If you have to go forever without ejaculating. A lot of guys who are in semen retention have this kind of extremist approach, and it just sets themselves up for failure, or they end up just, not telling the truth. Like, oh, no, the wet dream didn't count. I've been retaining for 3 years, and it's just this ego trip, right? So it's like, why are you practicing semen retention? I do it because I want to have more energy, I want to have more confidence, more drive, more just like more yang energy, really. But there can come to a point where I have too much yang energy. I feel too driven. I feel too stimulated. I can't relax and like calm down. And so usually for me, it's about a month or so, and it's time for me to have an ejaculation during sex with my partner. And then I feel good. It's like, all right, I feel balanced now. And then, climb back up on that yang energy building. So the thing is if you're not in a depleted state to begin with, then if you haven't been, just ejaculating recklessly like a lot of men do, then maybe it's not as big of a deal for you to ejaculate here and there. And the whole thing is once you really develop skill in this, you listen to your body. But if you feel fatigued, unmotivated, lazy, your legs, your back feel kind of weak after ejaculating, physical activity feels harder, then you're probably depleted. If that's not the case, then you're not depleted and you're probably doing something right. So to understand this isn't like it's not a black and white thing. Like everyone must do it this way. It's about addressing all the different intricacies of your own makeup, what's causing, you to feel healthy, balanced. It's a balance between extremes. Everything is a yin yang dynamic. And for each person, that's going to look like something different. There's something different, if that makes sense. Broken Soul says, I'm trying to understand your logic. So you don't do everything. So you do everything, you just don't ever finish. You produce forever regardless. So I don't see the point. I doubt finishing would make you live longer. And what about men who live till they're 100? I doubt they did that. I think you're talking about ejaculating, see, kind of this point of non-ejaculatory sex and everything. So, okay, if you're not interested in this, if it doesn't resonate with you, then it's probably not for you. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. That's fine. For me personally, I noticed that in my early 20s, I was feeling, I would have, I was compulsively ejaculating. I was compulsively watching porn and masturbating. And after ejaculating, I felt very weak. I felt very lazy. I had a lot of addictive habits, and I was having a really hard time getting anywhere in my life. And the first time I went a week without ejaculating, my energy level increased significantly. I felt much more yang. It was obvious that my testosterone had increased. And what I've noticed is that when I don't ejaculate frequently, I actually experience a lot more pleasure during sex. I have a lot higher energy. I feel better overall. This is from personal experience. So, experiment. Go a week without ejaculating. Notice how you feel. Go 2 weeks without ejaculating. Notice how you feel. I'm not here to like, if you don't want to do this, don't do it. I'm not here to convince you. It's just, I'm sharing my own personal experience, what works for me, and what, thousands and thousands of men from around the world are experiencing is that this conscious working with sexual energy, not just recklessly ejaculating, makes them feel a lot better. Amber Honia says, what are your thoughts about twin flames or divine equals? Have you experienced this kind of connection? How might that sexual connection be different from other relationships? So these are, twin flames, divine equals, soulmates, all these things. I mean, these are words that represent concepts that maybe mean different things to different people. Kind of this, idea that there's maybe this partner that we have. Maybe we're part of the same oversoul aspect. We come from the same soul group. We have past life experience. These different kind of theories about it. Sure, I believe that there can be something to this, but I think sometimes people kind of turn this into like stories. Like I personally had this experience with a woman I was involved with several years ago, and she was putting me through a lot of pain, I would say. Basically, the situation was she was in a relationship with someone, and she was like, I didn't know she was in this relationship, and we were getting together, and she's like, oh, like I want to be with you, and all these things, and there was this intense attraction we had, this intense kind of connection we had between us. And in my mind, I'm just like, oh, we're soulmates or we're twin flames, and I have to go through all the suffering to learn and grow. But really, it ended up that I was just getting involved with someone I shouldn't have, that I felt, a strong attraction to. And I don't know, I put this whole story on it. So it's whatever you want to make of it. It's difficult to really truly say what is or what isn't, because everyone has a different perception of reality. Um, so it, I, it's I don't have a good answer here, right? My experience is just that some people you will feel a deeper resonance with, some people you feel a deeper attraction with, versus just the kind of superficial physical attraction. Why this is, I can't really say. Maybe sure, maybe we had past lives with them, maybe we come from a similar source, we could say, where our soul came from, our oversoul, all these different theories and things like that. Um, so there seems to be a more spiritual drive in some relationships, some attractions. I definitely experienced that with my current partner, who I've been with for 5 years, and it's been a very intense and powerful uh, relationship we've had together. And obviously, a deeper connection is going to be. I think this really gets into these different layers of attraction that we have. Where for most people, their attraction is coming from the gene level, the physical essence. It's just sexual, physical attraction, and they kind of make it work beyond that a bit, but more often than not, it dries up just that physical attraction. It dries up, they get bored with each other, and they move on to someone else. But there's also the chi attraction, right? More of an emotional level, more of a feeling sense, like you really resonate with each other. You really just enjoy being around that person, things they have to say, and the interactions, the emotional exchange you have, right? That tends to form a stronger connection. But then there's the Shen level, the more spiritual connection, right? Where it's like you feel like a deep spiritual connection with that person. You feel like this cosmic connection. You like, it's like them from another time, another place. And so these are kind of the three layers of attraction that we have. And again, most people it's just the physical essence, but I think what you're referring to is having this relationship where it is all three. That's when the real magic happens. It's a spiritual attraction, it's an emotional, intellectual connection, it's a physical attraction. All these together form a very deep, powerful bond. And we can put whatever words we want on that. Um, yeah, because it's definitely a deeper relationship than others. Kyle Jordan says on semen retention since 2015, only release once every 3 or 4 months and only by casual release or sexual release with a casual partner. Any way to manage energy in between, tend to feel unable to control emotions or think before action. So this really comes down to having a practice, having, for me, sexual kung fu, it's about, semen retention alone will give you varying results. You'll feel good. It can be very up and down in that you tend to amplify a lot of unconscious patterns, emotions you're talking about, and it can be up and down, right? Versus having a foundation of internal energy management. You're working with the sexual energy, you're working with the microcosmic orbit, you're transforming that energy, moving it through your body. Because if you're not doing this, you're not really making the most of that sexual energy. It kind of just builds up in your balls and just amplifies your kind of lower center drive, just the drive to have sex, the drive to be successful, the drive to make money, the drive to eat food, just your base experiences, right? But when you practice the techniques of circulating the sexual energy through your body, it starts to activate your higher centers, starts to change the form of that energy, keeps it fluid, keeps it dynamic. I was talking about this at the beginning of the video. And also, I think having tools for managing emotions, this is why my course, Multi-Orgasmic Man, the first several weeks are developed to clearing negative emotions, clearing traumas from the past, clearing the blockages that can become amplified by the sexual energy. So, having a practice, a cultivation practice beyond just retaining semen, I think is extremely important. Okay, guys, there's a bunch of questions. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just gonna pick through a few. So apologies if I don't have time to get to your question right now. Dov says, what practice can you recommend to sleep better when retaining longer than a week? So this is really about calming your nervous system. I think grounding is huge. Keeping yourself cool, keeping yourself yin, because when you're practicing semen retention, you become very yang. And this can cause excessive stimulation, a lot of heat, rising up into the head, keeping you awake at night. And so more yin. The six healing sounds is one of the most essential practices for doing semen retention. I teach this in my Multi-Orgasmic Man course. You can look that up and find it as well. Stillness practice, like just basic meditation, just stilling the energy, sinking it down low in the body. That will help to what's known as settle the gene, in Taoist practice where you're sinking the energy. And because what happens is this gene becomes it becomes very stimulated. It wants to move out of us, makes us want to go out in the world and like try to get things and all, it makes our mind very busy. So being able to settle that keeps it a bit more contained. You'll sleep better, right? Um, Physical exercise, burning off that energy. I have to do intense cardio 3 or 4 times a week to kind of burn off some of the excess energy I have. And also having a practice of calming before bed. It's like if you're just doing things and you just try to go to sleep, you're not going to be able to sleep. So make sure you turn off your screens, no screens, no blue light in your eyes within, for me, 2 or 3 hours of going to bed because it stimulates cortisol production. It suppresses your melatonin. Sharon, Miss Masturbator says, I do not think it is healthy to only release with your partner. I think sometimes we all need time alone. None of us know what is going to happen in the future. And if you train your mind to only come with a partner, what happens if that relationship ends? Well, it's a fair point. But for me, the whole thing is like an ejaculatory orgasm is not really a highlight of my life. It's like, it's a, I prefer non ejaculatory orgasms, full body orgasm state. Um, and I don't rely on a partner to do that. I can do that on my own, and I certainly have a self pleasure practice at times where I do that. Right, for me, simply because I found that ejaculating just in like a masturbation setting, I just feel depleted. I don't feel good from it. It's not a like something that makes me feel good. That's why if I'm single, I will retain basically as long as I can. And when I ejaculate with my partner, when we're having a long sexual session, it's not just like, okay, we have sex for a few minutes, I ejaculate, that's it. It's usually a process, right? That once a month kind of special thing. It's almost like a ceremonial thing where I'm, like, okay, I'm gonna give you my energy. We're gonna manifest something with it. I do several practices to draw. I'm basically extracting the energy out of that semen into my body, storing it. So it's almost like I'm spitting on an empty shell, and I don't feel any depletion because there's this exchange between us of energy. And it's, again, I don't really get anything from ejaculating on my own. I just wouldn't ejaculate. But when I'm having sex with my partner, we've been together for 5 years, we have sex almost every day. It's a huge buildup of energy. So about once a month, it's fine for me to release that. It actually balances me out, I found. Rendell Frank says, have you ever experienced sleep paralysis on semen retention? It's been a while since I mean, the thing is, we all experience sleep paralysis every night. The body becomes paralyzed when we go to sleep. The sleep paralysis is simply your mind wakes up before the body does. And, you're like, oh shit, I can't move my body. It's a very bizarre experience. Some people say, oh, it's an entity attacking. I don't know, maybe, but I think more often than not, it's simply your mind. There's a little glitch where your mind wakes up before your body does and you can't move. I used to experience this a lot actually when I was doing a lot of lucid dreaming, which is consciously going into the dream state. But it's been a long time since it's happened to me. It's actually I experienced it a few months ago. It was just I'm trying to remember. I was coming out of a dream. I was in bed with Mariah, my partner, and I'm coming out of it, and I'm like, I can't move, and I was trying to like yell, and then I finally was just like, "Ugh," and like I woke her up, and it was interesting. Okay, Sepe says, how do you create Shen energy? Well, you don't really, you don't create it so much as you cultivate it. You can bring it into your body. You can transform your energy into Shen. Shen is spiritual energy. Again, Jing Qi Shen in the Taoist practice, these different frequencies of the life force, of prana. When we talk about energy as in a context of life force energy, it comes in different forms. Jing is the most almost physically dense. It's not quite physical, but it's almost there. That's Jing. Qi is the intermediary between spirit and matter in some ways, right? And then Shen is that spiritual quality. So in Taoist alchemy, what you're basically doing, one of the goals is to take this Jing that you have, your physical essence, your semen energy, to transform that into Qi, which you can move around your body for healing, and eventually transform that into Shen, which so you're transforming this sexual desire into spiritual energy, spiritual awareness, right? And this is what Taoist alchemy is all about. But any spiritual practice is basically cultivating Shen. All right, guys. I think that's it for today. Thanks everyone for joining. Always good to see you guys. And let's see, any updates? Not really right now, but Multi-Orgasmic Man will be opening uh, fairly soon. But thanks everyone for joining. I most likely will not be going live next week, doing a little traveling next week. Okay, Sepe is asking, do I have any Taoist alchemy courses? Technically, yes. Yes. I could say that Multi-Orgasmic Man is some of the early to mid stages of internal alchemy. It's the most important stage where you learn to, create the Dantian, create these containers, create these energy fields, so you can gather that sexual energy and stop, losing it, stop scattering it around. So Multi-Orgasmic Man really is the first several stages of Taoist alchemy, right? And I go more into to some of the more advanced practices in my Immortal Energy Arts program. You can, have some information on that in several of my videos. But yeah, good to see you guys. Take care. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you soon.